Hello, everyone. I wanted to have a chat with you guys today about leadership and how to go ahead and establish your expertise so that you can come off as a leader and not a jerk when you're trying to share your knowledge with others. So just give me 1 second to get all set up here, and then we can begin. Just making sure that I share this out with everyone. So give me 1 second. So today we're going to be talking essentially about leadership and really what does it take to be a leader, as well as how you can go ahead and start sharing whatever it is that you know to be perceived in the way that you want to be perceived, right? So there are many things that are important when establishing your leadership. But what you really want to do, if you want to become a leader, if you really want to establish that leadership in a way that people respect you, love what you have to say and look up to you, is you want to learn how to share your knowledge in a way that opens people's hearts and allows them to actually receive the information that you're trying to share. So in other words, you want to step into the role of a teacher in a way that is embodied in leadership. So if whether you own a business or you're part of a company, you have you're an employee, or you're trying to establish yourself as an influencer, or even something as simple as just like trying to create leadership in your group, like your job, your community, if you're in college, whatever it is, if you're trying to establish leadership in some sort of community, in some sort of sense, it's so incredibly important to position yourself so that you are respected, so that you're perceived as an authority, and that people will listen to you. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today for a bit. So it's one thing to, generally be very informed about a certain topic, whether it's, your area of expertise, whether it's your job or, a passion. If you just know a lot about something, it's one thing for you to be very knowledgeable and willing to share it. And then it's completely another to want to ram it down people's throats, right? And make them feel bad or unequipped in that topic because they don't know what you're talking about, right? So how do you go ahead and share your knowledge and share what it is that you want to teach to people and what you want to show them in a way that doesn't feel intimidating, where people are like, whoa, stop being a know-it-all, stop making me feel very uncomfortable and whatnot, which can happen sometimes, right? So becoming both a leader and also a teacher is all about understanding what you can offer to people, right? And packaging it in a way that is absorbed and perceived by your ideal audience, by the person that you want to reach, by the type of person that you want to reach. So this is something that, I teach to my private clients, and it's something that is absolutely essential when it comes to building your brand and telling your story and getting people to listen to you when you're branding yourself. So I wanted to share with you 3 tips that you can do in order to share your expertise and come off as a leader, instead of, some all-it-all, or dare I say asshole, that is going to repel people. So how do you go ahead and share yourself and establish yourself as a leader in a way that is perceived? So the first step is really about practicing humility and giving without expectation. So what do I mean by that? Never teach somebody if it's not generally coming from a place of good intention. That's generally just a no-no, right? Teacher-student relationship is so incredibly special. When I think of all the relationships that I have in my life, there is nothing that I treasure like that of a teacher and a student, right? Because it's one of the teacher giving selflessly, lovingly, of passing on their knowledge, of passing on something that they know that is going to impact both the lives of the teacher and the student. It's just such an incredible relationship that we want to honor and respect as we go ahead and establish our leadership roles. So with most relationships, when you think back to most relationships, it's very much a give and take, right? When you think about your romantic relationships and your friendships, your work relationships, it's almost like a contract. It's like, I'm going to give you this, and I will receive this in exchange, right? So however that may manifest depends on the nature of the relationship. For example, you think about work. It's like, okay, I'm going to do a good job, and you're going to reward me, right? You're going to help me get raises. You're going to help me essentially benefit somehow. With a romantic relationship, it's like, I'm giving you my love, I'm giving you my time, I'm giving you my attention, and in return, I expect that you do the same. Of course, all relationships should be perceived that way. But what's truly magical about being a teacher is that you're giving your knowledge for the sake of giving so that other people may benefit from you, whoever it may be, right? So you don't need something back. The very act of sharing is what ideally is fulfilling you. It is the meat. It is the end, right? So the best and most beloved teacher, like, close your eyes for a moment and think about your favorite teachers. Think about people who you just incredibly respected, and not just respected, but loved, right? It was the people who you perceived as being leaders, but not just like, oh, that person's doing cool stuff, I'm going to follow them, but more like they influenced me, they impacted me, they taught me something about myself, right? It's very likely that these people have a sense of humility where, you can actually feel that they truly want to help you, and there's nothing in it for them other than helping you, other than teaching you, giving you their knowledge without expectation, with a hope that you're going to use it. But there's no pushing there, right? So if you want someone to listen to you, if you want somebody to receive what it is that you have to teach them from a place of good intention, right? Don't shame them for not knowing something or being ignorant on a topic. I can think of so many teachers that, would make me feel like embarrassed because I didn't know something. Or if I would be like, what do you mean by that? And they'd be like, oh, you don't know? You don't know what branding is? Oh my God, right? Or something like that. Like, don't ever, when you're teaching someone, don't ever make them feel like the fact that they're ignorant on that topic is crippling, right? Make them feel like, oh, like, what don't you know about it? Let me explain this to you. Like, what questions do you have? It's so exciting to learn something new, right? Make it really exciting for them to be like, I know nothing about this, and I'm not going to be embarrassed or feel ashamed about approaching you, right? About learning it from you. Don't be passive aggressive because they're not understanding what you're saying, right? Or they're questioning you or pushing you back. Again, like, I've had teachers in the past who aren't leaders, especially because of this fact that, like, they're trying to, you're trying to understand something. And you're like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, never mind. This is too complicated for you. Or like, you'll get it. I guess you'll get it one day, or whatever. Like, let's move on to the next subject. Like, don't ever make people feel that way. Don't make them feel that just because, they don't understand or they want more clarification or they don't necessarily agree with you, like they can't learn from you. Because at that second that you make them feel that way, they're just blocked, right? And third of all, do not look down on them because what they believe in doesn't align with what you think is better. So if you're coming from a place of expertise, like, again, I'll use myself as an example. It's like, yes, I know branding. I know storytelling. And if someone comes up to me and they're like, well, actually, I don't believe in branding, or I don't believe in storytelling, I don't really agree with what you're saying. Don't like guilt them or push back because, you're like, well, I'm an expert. You don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, more so try to see where they're coming from and try to see how you can incorporate whatever their opinion is and whatever they're sharing with you to even make yourself even better at what you do, even more knowledgeable, right? Because again, the best leaders and the best teachers, they're not just like stuck in their own opinions and their own expertise. They understand that there's other viewpoints and there's other people that also have expertise in things that sometimes contradict them. And that doesn't necessarily mean that what you have to teach, what you have to share with people isn't like true or isn't validated. It just means that there's another perspective. So give your knowledge and allow people to push back and ask you for questions or clarifications without taking it to heart, without being offended by it, because remember that the best thing about being a teacher is it's just a role that you're putting on at that moment, right? And true leaders understand that when they're teaching, you're not just a teacher, you're also a student. As you teach, you get to learn from people. You get to learn their perspective, right? You have authority and you have knowledge and you have something that you can talk about, but teach yourself, really remind yourself to learn like a beginner so that you always have that open mind to absorb new things and add to your bank of knowledge. So really, even though you're a teacher and you're trying to establish yourself in your area of expertise, remember that, you can always also be a beginner in certain things, even within your field of expertise. Because the second you start thinking that you know it all or that, you have everything that it takes or everything, you already are equipped with all the knowledge that you need to teach people, you're blocking yourself from receiving new knowledge and being able to help others even more. So a second thing that you should really keep in mind as you're trying to establish your expertise and get people to perceive you as a leader is to practice what you preach, right? So you can't teach somebody properly when you're projecting your own insecurities on them, which happens so often, right? So, make sure that you actually understand and have worked through what you're teaching instead of like just having it be guesswork. Because I have encountered so many leaders and teachers who are like telling you what to do, but they don't actually do it themselves, right? Imagine like an accountant who tells you how to save money and they're in debt, right? Or a coach who tells you how to like, make six figures and they're not even making like five, you know what I mean? Or, somebody who's like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do this. And then they can't really like even show you what it is that they've done. Because then what happens when you're starting to teach someone something because you know about it, because you read about it, because you know people who know, what you're essentially going to be doing is taking these people and using them as guinea pigs to like experiment on them to figure out how your own shit, because you didn't figure it out yourself, and then projecting just your insecurities on these people, which is totally not a fair way to teach and definitely not a way that you're going to become a leader. So, for example, I wasn't able to teach people, again, I'll use myself as an example, like I wasn't able to teach people branding and how to express their most authentic selves online until I went through the process myself. I had to go through it. I had to trek through the mud and learn what worked and what didn't. And only then, and then I was able to help other people go through the process several times. And only then was I able to really understand and truly internalize what it meant to brand yourself a certain way, in a way that was influential, in a way that you could tell a story and get people to listen to you, right? Otherwise, I'd just be guessing on what I thought was best without actually having gone through the trials and errors that are what truly make you an expert, right? So make sure that whatever you're sharing your expertise about to your audience, it's from experience instead of you having read a lot about it, right? Or you having done tons of research, right? What do you actually have to show for it, right? So once you figure out how to do something that's in your field of expertise, whether, again, for me, it's branding, it's storytelling. For someone else, how to build an online business. For someone else, it's like how to excel at a certain sport, whatever it may be, or how to be really good at your job in the specific field of what you're working on, right? So whatever it may be, don't tell people what to do. Please, if you want to establish yourself as a leader and not a total asshole, do not push your opinions on others. That is also a form of projecting, right? So offer your knowledge when asked, and always present everything as a choice and not a demand. It's a choice and not like I know better than you. I know what I'm doing. Like, let me tell you how to do something, right? No. Nobody is going to learn from you, nor will they enjoy learning from you, nor will they come to you in the future to learn more from you when you present things as demands, as, well, I know this better than you, so you should listen to me, right? Everything is a choice. Everything should be a choice. And that's how people come to you and learn from you and actually enjoy learning from you, right? So resist, for example, this idea of, what I think? Can I give you a piece of advice? You know what I think you should do? Don't do that. Absolutely don't do that, because you're not giving people a choice when you do that, right? Most likely, they're going to be polite and they're going to say yes, and they're going to have to listen to your opinion because they were being polite, or they're going to say no, and you're going to get all miffed and offended, right? So if somebody approaches you and asks you to be taught, or, if you're sharing something and somebody wants to know more about it, then yes, that is your opening. That is your window to teach and help somebody. But do not ever sit there and try to tell them what you think and, push your advice on them. That is not leadership, right? That is just you trying to push yourself onto someone else so that you can feel better. That's ego. So if somebody, for example, directly asks you for relationship advice, I have a friend who's like, I need your help. I need to understand this about a relationship. Make it clear that you are sharing and teaching from your knowledge and experience. So, if they're asking you for advice to begin with, they probably value your expertise, right? Like they wouldn't be asking you for advice or your opinion if they didn't think you had some sort of knowledge or like valuable opinion on the matter. So you don't need to push anything on them, right? But you can be clear about being like, hey, I'm going to teach and share with you from what I have succeeded from my experience, from my expertise, right? So the language would change as well. Like, from my experience, I found ... right? I'm not inside of your relationship. That being said, I have noticed that ... right? Or asking questions such as, How do you feel when he talks to you like that? Oh, what do you believe is going to be the result if you guys have a discussion about him coming late at night, right? The same thing applies for work. It's like, oh, should I quit my job? Instead of being like, yeah, quit your job. It just fucking sucks. Like corporate sucks, which, is something that people ask me all the time. Should I quit my job? And it's like, what do you enjoy? It's like, do you feel happy? Do you feel unhappy? What do you think? Do you think that if you quit your job, you'll be able to apply your passion into this project that you're working on? Do you think you're going to be able to commit to it? Oh, really? Okay. Well, if you do, then here's some tips of something that worked for me when I quit my job. Here's some thoughts of like what I was able to the information and the knowledge I was able to collect in my experience that I've really succeeded from, right? So when you're teaching people, always put it back on them. Great teachers, great leaders, they don't push their knowledge on you. They open the door for you to discover it yourself. And then they guide you through that dark path so that you're not stumbling through it. So when you're really thinking about like, how can I teach somebody something that I want? It's like, first of all, present yourself, present that you have, essentially talk about the ways that you have practiced what you preached. Share your story. Talk about the ways that you've done it and the ways that it succeeded for you. And when people approach you or want to listen to you, or they ask you for advice or they ask you what you should do, don't push what you did on them. Just invite them to be like, hey, from my experience, this is what I've done. This is how I can help empower you. This is how my knowledge, I hope, is going to be helpful to you. And let them come to you, right? And let them process the information themselves so that they are making their own decisions, so that they're learning from you. And then they're taking what they're learning from you and they're applying that knowledge themselves. Because that is how people truly learn. It's not just by you telling them what to do, them following it, and then they're either doing it and they're basically blindly following you and they don't know how to like walk their own path, or they do it, they fuck up, and then they get pissed off or upset because you let them astray, right? Put it back on them. Let them make their own decisions. So the third part of establishing expertise and really learning how to be a teacher and a leader is to connect with your story and find what makes that story valuable for other people. Everyone on this planet has something valuable to teach. I have seen it as I travel around the world, and I did a year experience where I was staying with strangers on people's couches, and I documented it. And I met people, from villagers to really high level like executives to healers. Like I have sat with hundreds of people, and no matter, what was the financial background, social economic background of that person, where they were coming from, their race, the culture, no matter what, when I sat there and actually listened to somebody, opened my ears and absorbed what they had to tell me, every time I walked away with a lesson. Every time I walked away with a life lesson about, whether it is relationships or life, balancing my time, eating healthy, like being somebody who loves their family, like whatever it may be, I always walked away with something, right? So it's a matter of understanding what is your story and what about your story, what about it do you need to basically bottle or like focus on so that you can pass on valuable information to others, right? And we all know that storytelling is the number one way to share, right? It has been around. We have been telling stories since we were human, like from the beginning, from day one. It's how we pass on information to future generations, to other people. It's how we teach, right? So, I have a lot of people saying to me like, oh, well, I don't have anything to teach. I don't know what I could teach. But that's not true. Everyone has something that they can pass on. You just have to look hard enough. You are good at something and you may not even know what it is. You might not even know what it is about you that basically people learn from, that inspire people, that really people are like, oh my God, I want to know more. You might not even know, and you might be hiding it from yourself. So if you don't know, then that's your job right now. To reconnect with yourself, to find what it is about you that essentially like you can teach, you can pass on to others, to find what sets your soul on fire. And how can you know what that is? Well, this is something, again, this is where the inner work comes in, right? You need to, something that I tell my clients is like, figure out what you can talk about all day long. Is there something that literally all day you can talk about? I can talk all day about travel. I can talk all day about people's stories. I can talk all day about branding. I can talk about all day about how freaking awesome people are all around the world, and cultures and thoughts and ideas, right? So those are all things that, because I have that passion and because I'm willing to put in the time and energy to extend my knowledge and, do research both on the internet and on the ground, then yes, it's something that I've gathered a lot of information about over the years and can share with others. So think about what it is for you, right? And about ways that you can continue honing in on that skill and expanding essentially like your bank of knowledge, and how you can actually share it with other people. So if you do know what it is that you're really good at, that you're really passionate about sharing, that you want to teach, and that not only you want to teach, but you want to, use and leverage to establish your expertise in whatever it is that you're doing, then find ways to share that knowledge, right? You don't have to go on social media like I'm doing and blast it to everybody. That's not a necessity, right? When it comes to like teaching people and helping them. Well, it could be as simple as, for example, if you're really good at soccer, right? And you want to teach soccer, it could be as simple as coaching your local school sports team, right? If you're really like talented at writing, it could be as simple as like tutoring in like a local center, right? Or, something like, again, like storytelling. Like for me, I try to teach you guys about storytelling and branding through this, right? Through the mediums that are at my disposal. But don't ever think that's like, oh, if I'm not going, on social media, or I don't have a big following, I have nothing to share. I have nothing to teach. There are so many ways for you to be able to express yourself in that way and to help others and establish your leadership and yourself along the way, and sharing your knowledge with others without just seeming like somebody who's just pushing knowledge on people, So, it could be even as simple, again, as helping one person who if you feel that really needs your support, right? Maybe you have someone at work who is just started first year, right? They're fresh out of college and they need help. Like, why not take them on, mentor them, teach them what it is that strengthen that muscle, and practice how to share your knowledge with others in a way that actually feels genuine and well received. Because if you can do that to one person, you can do it to dozens of people. You can do it to hundreds and thousands of people, right? It's just a matter of really practicing how to share knowledge in a way that inspires others. So ask yourself, what can I do today for me to share what I know or I'm really good at with somebody, right? Without having any agenda, without wanting something from them. How can I share something that I'm really good at and help someone else, invite them into like my knowledge and help them also learn from it in a way that feels really good? Because once you nail that, that's how you nail how to be a leader. That's how you learn how to inspire massive amounts of people, get them coming to you just organically, and not coming off of somebody, not repelling people because you know things, but actually inviting them and wanting them to come to you because you know things. So, some of us might not be interested necessarily in stepping into leadership roles. Maybe you don't envision yourself being a leader. You're pretty happy where you are. But, again, we are for sure all teachers. Every single one of us has that gift inside of us. We all have knowledge that can benefit others. So if we tap into this in a healthy way, we can help each other, right? We can teach each other. We can help each other make our community stronger, our country, the world a better place. Because if we are all teaching and we're all teachers and students simultaneously, we're all exchanging knowledge, right? And we all have ways to establish ourselves as leaders in our niche, whatever it is that we're trying to do. So you can develop that skill if you choose to and be part of a bigger collective power. So those are some thoughts around, ways for you to establish your leadership in a way to share your knowledge and share your expertise so that it invites people and gets them really excited about learning from you instead of getting them like repelled because, you're like in their face. So take a few of these tips that I shared and start applying them to your daily life and see how, the way that people want to receive information from you completely transforms, and the way that your influence transforms from, into something positive, into something where people literally want to be around you, want to learn from you, and want to apply that knowledge, right? Which is going to feel really good. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to send me a message. As I mentioned, this is something that I work with my private clients on. I work with people to really help them step into their power, into their leadership role, and express their truest selves in a way that is influential, that is impactful, and creates a strong brand for you while also helping other people. You can do both. You can create a brand for yourself, a story for yourself, where you are perceived as a leader, where you're perceived as someone who knows what they're talking about and can teach other people how to do the same. And at the same time, help people, right? And help people and serve them in a way that they are going to be coming back to you for more, right? Because the second that you start becoming your most authentic self and sharing that with others and sharing what you learn along the process with others, you're going to naturally inspire people to do the same and to want to learn from you. So hopefully today's live was helpful. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm always happy to help. So yeah, hope that today was good and helpful for you guys, and I will speak to you soon. So I'm saying